Offensive line.
I probably have the least to say if you want to start down here.
I mean, there's a lot to say about the offensive line, I think. And I think first and foremost, Aaron Brewer came in and kind of solidified the center spot, and he's kind of perfect for what we do as far as the zone blocking goes. Aaron Brewer was a nice addition for the Dolphins.
Top 5 center in the league.
Yeah. Austin Jackson played a great right tackle for us until he got hurt. That's kind of been his MO throughout this point of his career. Like he's only had one fully healthy season since he's been here. But when he's in there, he's a pretty good right tackle for us. And then Teron Armstead played left tackle for us this year. Don't know if he's going to be back, but we have a replacement for him and Patrick Paul. So those three positions, I think, are somewhat solidified. What isn't solidified is our guards, obviously. So, if you disagree with anything I just said, please let me know. But Anthony, I'm going to throw it to you first. Mm-hmm. How do you see what do you think our offensive line looks like next year? Because we do need an overhaul, especially at guard.
Well, right now it's empty because we're losing 9 of our 16 offensive linemen. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7. Do us a quick math. We have 7 guys left to play 5 positions. And some of them aren't very good. Not that would make a difference because we don't have a very good unit. Listen, I think that I've mentioned this in a previous show. I think Patrick Paul, Austin Jackson, and Aaron Brewer are a really solid core to this offensive line. If Teron Armstead comes back, yes, that's awesome. If he doesn't, okay, we drafted his replacement in Patrick Paul. But I 100% agree with you, Keith, that the guards are the problem. I think at number 13, we should be looking at offensive line. I don't think that any Dolphins fan would argue with that at this point. And then the problem with free agency is that good offensive linemen don't typically hit free agency because everybody needs offensive linemen. This isn't the college football of old where like there was, offensive line factories like Michigan and crap like that who were just chewing out 5 offensive linemen every draft and they were all all-stars. Like we don't get that anymore from the college football ranks. So I looked at free agency. There's 2 guards that stood out to me in my criteria here because I am not an offensive line guru. I looked at guys who were under 30 and who played over 85% of snaps last year. James Daniels is a guard up in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. Ben Bredson from Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are the 2 guys that stood out to me. They're both sub 30. Both played 86% or more, actually, of their snaps last year. I say get aggressive. Like, what are we waiting for here? How many seasons do we have to look at these guards just get rolled over by any slightly better than mediocre defensive tackle before we decide that we want to build up the guards? So, in my opinion, if you want to bring back a guy like Jones or Eichenberg as purely depth, okay, because we have to have guys on that unit, right? We have to. But I really want to see them go after either very highly. If 2 of our top 3 picks are linemen in this draft, I won't be sad.
I'm right there with you. Absolutely.
And then go get one of these sub 30 guys that are free agents. Let's see if they stick. I mean, we've been doing that, right? I mean, if you look at some of the guys who are free agents, it's because they just got here and they didn't work out. But if I don't see just a commitment to the offensive line this year, I'm really just gonna have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And again, I've said it before a couple of times. I'm going to say it again. I think this is an off season where Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel, they learn from their mistakes and understand what they were doing wrong. Their jobs depend on it, right? So with that being said, they have to address offensive line. They can't give us another line like you guys are more concerned about the offensive line than we are. The offensive line was a cause for concern. The offensive line was not very good. And I've said this before on this show. Guys, 11 of the top 12 offensive lines in the NFL this year were in the playoffs. That's, I mean, if that doesn't.
We know it. We know it.
11 of the top 12 offensive lines in football this year were in the playoffs. The one outlier being the Browns, who had a good offensive line, but everything else is a dumpster fire.
You know what
In
that says to
truly
me,
Browns
though?
fashion.
You know what that says to me, though? Those talent evaluators are good at finding guys that fit what they need. Because that's 55 starters right there. There's no way all 55 of those starters are superstars, right? Like,
No,
we need to
not.
find guys that, if we even have a scheme, I have no idea. Our offensive linemen look lost more often than not. But we just need to find the guys that fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
We need those old, like, 1980s, 90s Pittsburgh Steeler. Bring your lunch pail, put your hard hat on, shut up and do your job. Those kind of players.
Should we start exploring Japan for some sumo wrestlers or something?
I mean,
get some bodies in there.
Hey,
get
some Maori warriors from.
I can see you just watch The Replacements, Anthony.
Every day.
All right, Taylor, lay it on me, man. How do you see the Dolphins' offensive line shaking out this year?
All right, I feel a little defensive and going into this one, considering I did suggest the Tyler Warren thing a few minutes ago. Keep in mind.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. But do keep in mind, this fun exercise, and we would love to hear your takes on all this in the comments. But the other thing, too, is this is assuming, or at least for me, that we're trading Tyreek Hill. And as we were talking about a second, I would assume is what we end up getting. Or at least what I would like to get. So there is premium draft capital still there for offensive linemen in a class that I kind of really like for the offensive line. There's a lot of names out there. I don't think, like, my man crush on the offensive line is Tyler Booker. Daniel Jeremiah had him going into the top 15 in his first mock draft. And Daniel Jeremiah seems very plugged in. So that seems like that might not be a thing or might not be possible. But a few names in the free agency department. I know you have some of the old guys. Your Zach Martins, Brendan Sheriffs. But James Daniels is a name I was looking at too, Anthony. I think that's somebody who would fit in this scheme. And also somebody who hasn't really panned out, but Tevin Jenkins.
Yeah.
Coming from Chicago. Coming out of the draft.
I saw him and I skipped right over him.
That's fair.
No, I'm actually with Taylor on that one.
In the pros, he hasn't been great. So I understand.
But in college
he was known.
We can fix him.
Well, in college, he was known as a more physical, I'm going to run you into the sideline kind of guy. So, and if you can't tell, that's kind of been my theme for going through some of these players is I just want nasty dudes on this team. So that's really where I'm coming from. In terms of the draft, I'm sure you guys will name a few and I'll react to it, but I'm not wanting to take up a whole lot of time.
By the way, don't get defensive because in like 2 months we're all going to look like idiots anyways. So
when we bring back our entire offensive line and say, "Hey, you guys are worried about it more than we are."
Yeah,
and we lull ourselves into thinking that it's the right thing.
Yeah, and again, when the Dolphins took Chop Robinson last year, I was not a happy camper. I'm
gonna be honest with you. I'm like, I didn't even know who he was. He wasn't even on my radar.
I thought they were taking a guard. And I was super disappointed. And guess what? There's egg on my face. Lots of it.
Stud alert.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll obviously talk about him a little bit next week. But so Taylor, like Tyler Warren, if the Dolphins do draft Tyler Warren and he comes out and balls out the way Brock Bowers did this year, egg on my face. And I'd be happy for that to be the case. Nothing would make me happier than to see the Dolphins hit on another first-round pick that I didn't see coming.
I'll say this, Keith. It'll make me happier if we draft Warren than if the Patriots or the Jets do, which is who he's mocked to the most.
I know.
I would much rather see us draft him than them. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you there. All right, so Josh, you've been awful quiet during this offensive line discussion.
Because we want to talk about Kelvin Banks for 45.
Oh my God! Yeah, I just did something. Never mind. So I would say, look, I'm going to keep this super short, right? Because I think, and I don't know, maybe we do have time to do one round. Takes from the deep, maybe. But one name in free agency, I'm a big fan of it, for this team specifically, is Patrick McCarry from the Baltimore Ravens. Right, love him. I think that
versatility,
what he does in that scheme, because they are very run heavy, fits perfectly in our screen game thing that we run.
Yeah. Why'd you have to bring up the screen, man? We finally got
Because
past it. It's the off
I will
season.
never get past it. I'm the one shaking in the corner, like, just no. From in the draft though, I have quite a few players that I like in all rounds. I have two names that are going to be early. Both of them will be taken in the first round. I hope we get one of them. And that my choice of choices for the 13th pick, assuming we don't trade up or trade down or anything like that, is Kevin Banks Jr. out of Texas, 6'4", 324 pounds. He played offensive tackle. I think he slots in as a guard. I don't think there's any question he plays in a phone booth, possesses high-level physical tools, a ton of experience, right? And just that nasty road grading. And he's got that like Teron Armstead speed kind of thing where, he's big. He's one of those like, low center of gravity, but can run like the wind, right? Was a, track star when he was before he hit his growth spurt. The other one is Josh Simmons from Ohio State.
Go.
Yeah. 6'5", 310. I have him I have Josh Simmons right behind as my OT2 in my top 100, right behind Will Campbell out of LSU. But Josh Simmons, I've watched tape of his, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't think I've seen an offensive lineman come out in the last 3 or 4 years that I would take over him.
Wow.
You just said Kelvin Banks.
No, but this is the same draft. I'm saying, if one of these two players should be our 13th pick, right? Because both of them are going to be gone in the first half of the first round, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
If we lose out on Kevin Banks Jr., who's for all intents and purposes slotted in the top 10, well, maybe we can make a bong video and he'll follow us. Like,
let's do it. I'm ready.
I'm all for it. Deep fake it, baby.
Let's go.
But if he's gone,
you can't say it out loud and put it on air, Josh. Like now we're implicated.
We'll just delete the stream.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It'll be fine.
If we get Kevin Banks Jr., I quit anyways because I want to just go watch him play football. But Josh Simmons is my other guy. And then later in the rounds, he's my OT4 out of Minnesota. I'm going to butcher his first name. Taylor, don't laugh at me. Ariante Ursa. I can't even pronounce his last name. Anyways, offensive tackle. Yeah, out of Minnesota, 6'6", 330. Massive, gifted offensive tackle. If Patrick Paul doesn't pan out, he can slide in at the guard position maybe, and we have some bookends there. So there's a couple names to look out for.
I love Kelvin Banks. Love to see him in a Dolphins uniform. And Taylor, you mentioned Tyler Booker earlier. Love Tyler Booker. Love the tape that he puts on.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he's a scheme fit for the Dolphins. So that's my only problem with Tyler Booker is that he might not be nimble enough to run the zone blocking scheme. He's about 350 pounds. Again, love the player. Love what I saw from him.
Quick question for you guys. If one of those, let's say your favorite offensive lineman is there, but Tyler Warren is also there.
Oh, no. I want Kevin. There is not many players I would take over Kevin Banks.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's no player in this draft that would take over Kevin Banks, honestly.
Well, I mean, if Trattoria McMillan fell to us,
yeah.
I'll take a 6'3" or 6'4" wide receiver who runs a 4.2.
Yeah.
DJ thinks Abdul Carter's going first overall, so who are we to say?
Bro, Abdul Carter next to Chop Robinson would be
unreal.
The Penn State boys, let's go.
Could you
I'll
imagine?
upset these two real quick. I got Josh Simmons ahead of Kelvin Banks, but
no, I mean, look, honestly, that's not
fair.
a bad take. That's not a bad take.
Yeah,
I did say your favorite offensive lineman. So
yeah. I mean, you're wrong, but it's not a bad take.
Well, we're all wrong. It's okay.
I'm going to throw out one name as far as free agents go that I think might be a scheme fit for the Dolphins here. How about Aaron Banks from San Francisco? Now
I don't know much about him.
Now he started off kind of rough. He was a second-round pick for the 49ers in the 2021 draft. Started out kind of rough, but he's gotten progressively better. Only problem is he got injured earlier on in the season and missed the rest of the season. Now, again, we make jokes, classic Chris Greer guy to draft an oft-injured guy. He has been fairly reliable up until this season, and it was, but he did start 13 games for the 49ers. So I like Aaron Banks. I think he's a scheme fit for the Dolphins. My ideal scenario is to see the Dolphins pick up a guy like Aaron Banks or Will Fries from Indianapolis, and then draft a Kelvin Banks or even a Tyler Booker. I wouldn't be upset with Tyler Booker. I just wonder about the scheme fit. And I think bottom line is the Dolphins need to overhaul this guard room and get 2 new starting guards for next season. Bring in Isaiah Wynn as a backup. Bring in maybe Robert Jones. No, not Robert Jones. Maybe Liam Eichenberg as a backup.
He 180 on
tried
that
to
so
force it.
fast.
You knocked that off. I mean, I will say this though. I wouldn't mind bringing back. I mean, we're talking for like the last end of the depth, Liam Eichenberg and Isaiah Wynn, just as like numbers 8 and 9 on the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Ike
Yeah.
gets paid if he doesn't come back.
And another guy that should be mentioned here, Kendall Lamb has kind of walked back his take on retirement.
Oh, really?
He's walked back. He's walked that back a little bit. Wouldn't mind seeing him come back as a swing tackle.
Didn't he also say he wasn't coming back to Miami though?
Well, maybe. But he's another guy that you kind of need on the back end of your offensive line. And as the Dolphins reconstruct this whole thing, we're going to need backup guards, going to need backup tackles.
Mhm.
Whether Teron Armstead comes back or not, we're going to need a couple more tackles on this team.